and welcome. You're watching NewsX with me, Devika Chopra. 4 days have passed since President's rule was imposed in Manipur. As for the latest reports, no city in the state is currently under lockdown. However, security forces have ramped up efforts to crack down against terror. Till now, 27 terrorists have been nabbed and several weapons ranging from rifles to launchers to grenades have been seized. In fact, a Chinese-made drone remote controller has been recovered as well. That's not all. Efforts to combat illicit drug production and narcotics trafficking has also been done. Over the last couple of days, the Assam Rifles, Manipur Police and the CRPF have worked in tandem to destroy 16 acres of poppy fields. Amid all this, both Kukis and Meiteis have called for peace. Kuki-Zo MLAs of Manipur have urged the central government to lay out a comprehensive political roadmap for peace and justice. So what really is next after President's rule? What does the next phase of peace and reconciliation look like? We take this conversation forward. I have with me Major General G.G. Dwivedi. We also have with us Major General Rajan Kochar, defense expert, and we have with us Tirthankar, who's a Meitei voice, and we have with us Kachin Langal, a Kuki voice as well. Let me begin this broadcast with Mr. Tirthankar Kshetrimayum. Mr. Tirthankar Kshetrimayum, can you hear me? Mr. Kshetrimayum, can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you, sir. Thank you for joining us on this broadcast. Big developments have taken place. The Chief Minister, after 2 years, tendered his resignation. President's rule has been imposed. But the big question that everyone is asking is, what does this next phase of peace and reconciliation now look like? In your perspective and from a perspective of the Meiteis in Manipur, what do you think the government must do as a next step?
I mean, first of all, thank you for having me here. I think in general, the fact that PR rule was imposed in Manipur, I think in a way it's a good thing because there was a lot of confusion and a lot of, thing here in Manipur where the government, be it the state or the center, the people and the general public were not aware of what the actual plan is. But even saying that, I think that the PR is going to be temporary. I think there's going to be a consensus and a new BJP government would be formed. That is what the people are thinking. I think the time frame to decide on the new CM phase was not adequate enough. So for the time being, the president's rule has been imposed. But I think it's a good thing because it's a positive from both the communities in the sense that people are willing to start a dialogue at least, right? Because I think one of the main contentions was change in the leadership at the state level, which has happened with the resignation of the CM, Mr. N. Biren Singh, right? So from here, I think only the positives we have to look at as a community and start from scratch on how to build and, get peace back. And as you mentioned, I think with PR coming into play, the central forces along with the state forces are, have been given a directive where they are trying to make sure that whatever arms and ammunitions are out in the general public, they are brought back into the government fold as quickly as possible, which is the right step. So I think everything is moving in the right direction. We'll have to play how long the PR is imposed and who will be the new face, if the government plans to bring back a new CM.
Okay, all right. Let me take the same question across to Mr. Kachin Langal, who's also joining us on the broadcast. Mr. Langal, if you could, of course, take our viewers through your thoughts on how the government needs to proceed at this point in time. President's rule has been imposed. Of course, the government is now ready to come up with a plan of action. What do you think needs to be done next so that the trust of the Meiteis and the Kukis and other tribes in Manipur can be won back by the government?
Thank you, madam, for inviting me for this program. Sorry for the problem in joining the meeting. So far, it's okay. But, Madam, I think the government will have to do a lot of things, reconciliation, to bring confidence to the people from both sides. Each section should be found and appear to be neutral and in the right direction without any bias. Imposing PR is good, but imposing PR alone for the sake of PR just to wait for formation of popular government is not. If that happens, that will be very unfortunate. Now, the government knows, everyone knows who is creating the problem on both sides. I'm not blaming any particular group. And the government has to bring those people under control somehow. They have to make them, convince them that fighting, waging war on each other in a state, democratic state, is unacceptable. So, as of now, I have not read any news about the imposition of UPSPA in valley areas as was done in the hill areas. And I have not seen so far any pragmatic, any cogent efforts to recover all the stolen guns and all the illegal guns from whoever they are having. And when the government, the security forces, they simply dismantle bunkers, maybe bunkers of Meiteis or Kukis, Zomis, but they after dismantling the bunkers, they took whatever assemble or whatever weapons are there, they took them off and leave them. They did not provide any security protection to the people. That exposed the villagers, the public, to whoever want to do mischief. That is not in the, as far as I'm concerned, I don't like that one. If they remove the bunkers, dismantle the bunkers, take away whatever little weapon they have, of course, that's okay, but they should give them protection, either police or CRPF or whatever. Without that, that creates more problems and more heartburn on the victims. Otherwise, if the law is implemented equally, if all the lawbreakers are hauled up, and if the government takes initiatives and convince the people that the government really means for the welfare of the people, they are going to help, they are helping, and they are resettling the people, the victims, equally on both sides. Then we can hope for peace and restoration of law and order. Otherwise, we will be blaming one another and things will be back to square one in no time. As of now, the heavily armed people, whoever they are roaming. And SOO group, I have read some groups from UNLF, about 400 something people have also signed SOO or surrender, and the government is constructing buildings, some kind of settlement areas for them. That's a good news, but I have not read this news of their surrender and the terms of their agreement also. If these people shun violence and disown, denounce their claim for sovereignty, fighting for sovereignty, that's a very good, very, very good sign, madam.
Okay.
This will bring back peace.
Okay. All right. I'm going to come back to Mr. Shetri Mayum and Mr. Langal. But let me quickly now bring in Major General G.G. Dwivedi into the conversation as well. Major General G.G. Dwivedi, you've heard two of our voices who are giving us a little bit of perspective into what the people of Manipur might be feeling at this point in time. in your perspective, sir, what should be the next step that the government takes? It's a pretty long time from now, since we we can imagine when the elections in Manipur will take place. I don't think that's happening anytime soon, but the government will perhaps come up with some sort of a timeline in order to give a reassurance to the people. But immediately in the next 6 months, what do you think the plan of action for the government will be?
Well, Devika, what is currently the situation is, I think it was a political expediency that N. Biren Singh had to go resign and the president rule has been brought in, because I think there was no other alternative, because the current government had lost confidence. And these two developments have definitely opened space to resolve this 21-month-old conflict. Now, I quite agree with both the panelists. I think they have given a balanced view, and though they belong to different communities, that's a very healthy sign. The point is that government needs to have a roadmap. This president rule should not be just an interim stopgap to get another government in place. This president rule should be used to stabilize the situation, to create an environment where the new government has a platform to function. And for that, I think 3-4 actions are very important. First and foremost, law and order and normalcy. Now, these two are critical at this time. And how this can be achieved is that you need to disarm these militant groups. And militant groups which are in large number, UNLF, PLA, KVKL, Free Park and KNO, that is the Kuki National Organization. And I have a good deep idea about these because I was GOC in Manipur for more than 2 years. Now these groups are well armed and they also represent as the private armies of the different groups. Now this is where the major problem lies. And they talk about the suspension of operations. In fact, this agreement was drafted at my headquarters in Limokong in 2005, and then it was put into operations in 2008. But these are only signed by the Kuki national groups or Kuki national organizations. None of the Meitei groups had joined in. Now, if they join in, then this brings certain amount of confidence among the two groups that both sides are now willing to go in for reconciliation. And let me tell you, I have full hope because Kukis and Meiteis have lived like brothers for hundreds of years. There's never been a problem. And this problem was created when the High Court ruling was there that 6th schedule should also be applicable to Meiteis. I think that needs to be rolled back. The third point is that we cannot accept this autonomy and further division of Manipur. Hill development is paramount because that's where there is a situation of asymmetry, because valley is more developed than the hills. So concrete action plan to develop the hills, and also at the same time the drug menace and the border management. And my last point is, now is the time to take bold decisions. Central government must step in and every effort should be made on two fronts: reconciliation between the two communities and disarming various groups so that the chances of violence are reduced. And the last point is, of course, president rule has to be interim. It could be for 6 months, it could be 1 year, but president rule must put the situation on the ground conducive so that the new government that comes can function effectively and Manipur can be brought back on the rails. And the last point is, Manipur is a very, very important state. It's a window to the northeast and window to the Southeast Asia. I think this state has suffered enough. Time has come now to alleviate the suffering of the people and take bold political and military steps, security steps to ensure that we bring back normalcy to the state. Devika.
Absolutely. Let me bring in Major General Rajan Kochar into the conversation as well. Major General Rajan Kochar, we've been having many conversations for the past 2 years. It did take the government at both the state and the central level to come to a realization almost after 2 years that yes, it was time for the chief minister to step down. that the situation was not coming under control. We've been discussing the possibility of President's rule in Manipur for quite some time now. Now that President's rule has been imposed and will likely, of course, be the situation for the next many coming months, what do you think the government's plan of action really should be to regain some of the trust that has been lost over the past 2 years, where people of both the Meitei and Kuki communities have felt that the government has perhaps not been listening to what they've been saying, to what their problems are, and they've not been, essentially they were not okay with a Biren Singh continuing in power. That is what we were hearing for a very long time from the ground. Now that the Chief Minister has stepped down, do you think that that's the first sign that the government is interested in perhaps regaining the trust that it has lost, and how does it now continue to build on that momentum?
Thank you, Devika's very, very pertinent questions you have raised in the program today. First, let us see how much of time we have in the President's rule to stabilize the situation. A President's rule will last for 6 months. It can be extended up to a period of 3 years. That is point number one. Point number two is that the state government has got time till 2027. That means 2 years from now, the state government can be reinstated any point of time during the President's rule. So what I visualize is let's make a roadmap, or let's make a plan for the next 6 months at least. Let us not think beyond 6 months, because we really don't know whether the President's rule will be extended or not. So in these 6 months, what has the governor, his tasks in front of him? His first and the foremost task is to build up a trust between the two communities, or the three communities we have here. Because for quite some time, the state government has been perceived to be pro-Meitei. So this impression has to be removed. So how does he remove it? The first action is that disarming of both the communities, all the insurgent groups which are roaming freely with arms. He needs to disarm them, and he has to give them the confidence, because if you have to disarm the village, defense committees will have to be disbanded, because today both the communities have got their village defense committees, which are fully armed, and not just armed, Devika, they've got automatic weapons. They've got the latest amount of weapons, drones also with them. So let us, those 288 companies, 40,000 odd security people in Mizoram, let them be given a mandate right now to start the disarming process. And at the same time, it is extremely important to bring the communities together and start talking to each other. So I think peace committees, it has to be a simultaneous approach. We just can't say that, okay, law and order ko restore karenge, but we will not have the peace committees in place right now. Because time is at premium, because we really don't know what the situation will develop after 6 months. So since the governor has got the mandate right now, he must start talking to both the communities, and for that we need to have a peace committee. Because what the peace committee was made by Home Minister Amit Shah, of those 51 members, that was not acceptable to the Kukis, because Biren Singh was heading that peace committee. So now let's have people, and especially women, a part of the peace committees, and let's have some neutral people coming in, the people who have served in Manipur over the long years. It can be from the armed forces, it can be from the judicial forces. So let's have combination of all these people in the peace committees. And I think the most relevant part here is that cookies have certain apprehensions because, as General Dwivedi also said, that there is hardly any development in the hill areas. So they want a slightly more independence. So the autonomous hill councils, you can take the example or the model of Meghalaya in Schedule 6. Three autonomous hill councils are working there, and they are working very well. So you need to give them funds, you need to give them powers, and Article 371C also tells you that the hill area committees can be formed. So constitutionally it can be done, and to a great extent, I think the Kukis' demand for a sovereign state or a separate state or independent state will also get addressed the moment you are giving them some sort of a governance in their own areas. So I think it has to be a multi-pronged approach. Government has got, I think, according to me, 6 months of time to stabilize the situation, because the government has a hope that ultimately we need not go for fresh elections, and that is why the suspended animation has been put in place, so that with a new leader and a new mandate and a stabilized security situation, because right now the topmost priority of the governor is to stabilize the security situation. And my last point is border management. This has been a weak area in Manipur. I think the government needs to address it. You have only entire 1643 kilometers of the northeast border is being looked after by Assam Rifles, and Manipur in particular 398 kilometers. So you cannot have a force which is not trained for border management to be a part of the border management, because right now the situation in Myanmar is not stable. So let's have the BSF coming in now, and we require the border outpost, because Assam Rifles functions from the company operated post. So it's extremely important that we have people right on the border to stop the influx of these illegal immigrants and the militants. According to my information, almost 800 have infiltrated in the last 1 year. So we need to put an end to that, and I'm sure the governor, Ajay Bhalla, is extremely competent person, and he'll be able to stabilize the situation. Devika.
Right, absolutely. Let me bring in Mr. Shetri Mayum back into the conversation. Mr. Shetri Mayum, I want to understand from you, has the government somewhere begun any sort of a peace process? Are you hearing from the ground that there are committees perhaps that are being set up? And what would your demand be on that front?
So, Devika, things are in the process. Let's not forget that PR has just been over 48 hours old only, and everybody has their own political ambitions and intentions. So, I think there will be some time before particular names or people or the size of the committee and things like that would come out. But definitely that work has started in the background. But as I said, what Major General Kochhar also pointed out is that it is essential that we use this time of PR in a very efficient manner. And that is to make sure that we limit the violence by taking away the arms and ammunition from both the communities, set a table for talks where, things can work out unlike last time. So a lot depends on the governor, how he proceeds, how he wants to make use of his constitutional powers to make sure that safety and stability are, brought back to the region. And after that, whatever the central government decides along with the, state government, that would take place. But I think it's very critical of how the governor uses this time of 6 months to set the stage for a peaceful, resolution to this entire turmoil that has been going on over the past 1.5 years, right? So that being said, also I strongly agree with the point of Mr. Kochhar that a professional force which looks into the border, like BSF, has to come in. It is a very porous border, and I think if you look into the entire history of how this problem also started, a lot has to do with the porous border and the drug trafficking and the money that is generated from that porous border, right? So once you do the fencing and have a professional BSF, somebody like BSF guarding it, because I don't think Assam Rifles as an organization is meant to guard borders. They have a different role as per the parliamentary requirements. So if those two are taken care and the governor takes the right steps, I think we'll be moving in the right directions. And obviously the committees and everything, here, as soon as we start talking about committees and things like that, there are a lot of within both the communities. I say there are different multiple groups. Satisfying each group itself becomes a challenge. So that will take time, and once that is decided, then probably the peace dialogue can start. But in the meantime, as Mr. Kocher pointed out, we need to make sure that the weapons are not in the hands of the general public, right? I think that's the first most important thing. And the administration should be functioning irrespective of what is happening, so that the people have security and stability in confidence.
Okay, Mr. Langel, I'll leave the last word with you, sir. Same question to you. I want to understand from your perspective. Have you heard of any word on any sort of momentum or movement on a peace committee, and how would you want the government to really go about this process?
Madam, I have not heard any positive news, positive steps that can hearten the hearts of those victims. I'm sorry to say that. In fact, we all know that these things should have ended long, long ago. Okay, that has not ended, but even after the imposition of the president's rule, there are no announcements about how things are going to be handled from now on. There are no signs of whether there will be any peace talks, whether there will be talks with the Meitei group side or the other Kuki-Zo MLAs group side. When will it happen? Will it ever happen? Nothing has been spoken about these things. So I take it that no initiative has been taken in this direction. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Devika, can I make a quick point?
Okay, yes, General Dwivedi, go ahead.
I think I totally agree with the panelists just now. I think we need to get into mission mode. Means we need to put action on the ground. And that is what is required, because we just can't soft pedal the issue. Right now, I think some concrete action must be taken so that it appears that government is in action mode. It cannot be in inaction mode. And the second point is that until you bring these two communities together, build up the confidence, and that will only come when concrete action are taken on the ground. And right now, it appears that state of inaction is there. And I totally agree with Mr. Langel that we have to be on the mission mode, get action going, and at least the next 1 or 2 months, let the people feel that we are moving forward, and then I think reconciliation will come. And the last point is the border management. It's a very difficult border, because I have operated in this border extensively. I think it requires a coordinated effort, and also effort across with the Myanmar government, because a lot of the bases of the militants are in Myanmar, and they are very active, even if we take care on the own side. But these bases on Myanmar are very active, and they have to be also tackled through the diplomatic channel. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, all right. That's all. One
more point, ma'am.
Yes, Mr. Langel, go ahead.
Madam, thank you, sir, for that. And when even our MLAs are not able to sit together, madam, what can we say? It speaks volumes about the situation and the future. So the government has really a tough task ahead. It must be proactive. It must be seen neutral and take everything as per the law. Thank you, madam.
Okay. All right. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have, but I thank all of our guests for joining us to take this very pertinent conversation forward. With that, viewers, we sip into a very quick break.